Welcome in to another Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. My name is Gabe Anderson, and I'm joined, as always, by Chris Emerson. Chris, how we doing?
We're doing well. We're doing well. Ticking down to the start of the season. Just can't wait.
Absolutely. We are getting there. And I thought it would be fun for this episode. I know you saw the thumbnail of the episode to talk about one man and one man only, and that is everyone's favorite, Naz Reid.
I mean, anytime you want to talk about Naz Reid, I'm your guy. So let's do it. I'm all for it.
And so I just want to go, let me get something ready here because we have been talking about Naz Reid for a long time. I just got this clip here that I want to play for you. It's from the far past, I believe. It's from about 3 years ago. Just to show you how long, particularly you, have been on the Naz Reid bandwagon or the Naz Reid train, which of course all of us are on now. And I just want to show you this clip. This was from about 3 years ago, so 2021, before any of the playoff, before us making the playoffs, before all of it. Here's a little clip just to share of Chris.
And I know I said this months ago, but he is elite at finishing around the rim. And at the time it was with floaters and little, like they said that he was a part of the Jelly Fam crew from New York, them little Jelly Fam finger roll layups. I mean, he can finish great, but now he's just putting people in posters. Like, this dude is the real deal. And
right,
I know I said this
right there.
months
I
ago,
don't want to play it again. There we go. But yeah, I mean, we've been on the Naz Reid train for a while. And tell me, when did you first fall in love with the player Naz Reid?
So, when the Timberwolves, I like to recruit. I like to watch recruits coming out, and I like to look at high school guys. And when we were really bad, I would always look at, okay, we're going to have a top 5-ish pick. That's just how it's going to be for the next handful of years. Who coming out, who's the top, high school guys that are big men? Because we needed a big man. And I was searching those, and I came upon Naz Reid. And this is right after we got Karl Anthony Towns. And I remember watching him in high school, my very first impression of him was like, this is what we want. Like, this guy can do what Karl Anthony Towns does. Like, he's got it all. He's, got a good handle for a big man. He can shoot it for a big man. He can put it on the floor. He can block shots. He can pass. He can do everything. So I thought that it would be an interesting, way back then, that it'd be interesting to have him and Karl Anthony Towns to kind of split time, because they would be, an offensive option 48 minutes a night. So yeah, it was cool. It's cool to see him blossom into what he is now. But he's everything, dude. He can do anything he wants. I'm a big Naz guy still to this day.
And something interesting that I found, I was looking at some of his 2019 draft comparisons. Some of the book out on him, the NBADraft.com or .net had him going with the 34th pick of the draft. I found another thing where they was rumored to go to the Atlanta Hawks. Thank God that didn't happen. But interestingly enough, I just want to read some of his strengths according to this guy who wrote on. And by the way, his player comparison when he came out was Anthony Mason. So take that for what you will. Naturally gifted and talented. Makes plays you don't often see a player at his size make at any level. Which, that's kind of spot on. Yeah, that was exactly spot on. And another thing it says under the weaknesses, it says he can be turnover prone, average 2.6 turnovers per game by Under Armour Association, which I looked at.
Nitpicking.
Yeah, that is nitpicking. And I looked at his stats. He's never averaged 2 turnovers a game. And with how much he has the ball, that's pretty impressive.
Right. Well, for sure. I mean, he's such a decisive decision maker. Like, he'll make the move or he won't. He'll drive or he'll kick it. He'll shoot or he'll attack the closeout. Like, he has such quick decision making, but he has all the ability. I think high school does a lot better recruiting sometimes than, to be honest, than how we rank some of these guys coming out into the draft. And when I see a guy that's as ranked as high as Naz Reid was, such a talented player, drop so far in the draft, it really raises my eyebrows because, sometimes going to college is a hard thing for a 18, 19-year-old kid. It doesn't make them any less talented. So
Mhm.
if you can get a hold of that part, the talent's there.
Yeah, and like you were mentioning in that clip that we watched just a couple minutes ago, where you talk about his Jelly Fam kind of finger roll.
Yeah.
I read this article in Slam magazine, which there he is on the cover of right there. But he was talking about how he's from Jersey, and this quote intrigued me. We just come with a different kind of swag and game to put any move we put into play. And then he name dropped guys like Kyrie Irving and stuff like that. So I think it's just where he comes from. He grew up with this skill set. I guess just NBA scouts didn't see it.
Well, I mean, he said that when he went to LSU, he, ate everything he could see. He partied hard and he didn't take it very seriously. I remember when he was coming into the draft, he had the highest body fat rate of anybody in the draft class that year. He
Mhm.
was big and out of shape, but even at that, as a freshman, I think he was putting in like 15 and 9 or something like that. Like he was still
Yeah.
putting up pretty good numbers and he had that ability. Like you would see it pop on the screen. And that's what I look for in a lot of guys is you can just tell certain people are the type of athletes that move differently. Like if you're 6'9", 6'10", and you move the way he does, you're going to be successful just because not too many other human beings that size can move like that.
Yeah. And so what the next place I want to go is, what is Naz Reid's ceiling in your opinion? Like, do you think does he have the potential to go to the next step and be an all-star? Because what a lot of people thought he was going to do in the offseason was get a bigger contract from a different team, go somewhere and start, which obviously he's going to be coming off the bench with Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, two potential all-stars. What do you think was behind that move, and what do you think is the ceiling for Naz Reid? I know in interviews he said he just loves the core and he loves the fans around here, which we'll get into a little bit. But what do you think is the ceiling for Naz Reid?
Well, can you look up Naz Reid's contract the next
Yep.
couple of years? So the thing about Naz Reid is I think that it depends on the situation he's in. I think he's talented enough to be a guy who's almost the go-to guy on offense for a team, like maybe
Right.
a lesser team, and he's going to be able to, control 20. I mean, he could be a 20 and 10 guy easily on a bad team, but that doesn't have the same value as maybe a 16 and 8 guy on our team. So you got the contract?
Yeah, yeah. It's I got it up. I got it right here. Here. My computer's doing something weird right now, so
Well, that's
give me a
fine.
second. But yeah,
So the thing,
I got it. It's 3 years, 41 million with a player option in the last year.
so player option next year, right?
No, 2 years.
After next year.
Yes.
Yep.
So
So what's that?
so we have Nas for 2 years and then a player option.
Okay. So he has one more year under contract, which is this coming year, and then he gets to choose or not if he stays under that contract. So
Yes.
instead of signing a 4-year deal for probably, a couple more million than he would have made with us, probably. That's what he would have wanted as a 4-year. He basically signed a 2-year prove it deal with a team that he knew was going to be, he had a good environment for. He was getting minutes, and the fans loved him. So now, after this year, if he puts up another 6 man of the year type year, which I don't see why he couldn't. I don't even think he was playing all that amazing a lot of the year last year. Like he can be better.
Yeah.
The world's going to be his oyster coming into, he can just be an unrestricted free agent and choose his destination. So I think
Right.
he's going to monetarily really cash in on this situation. And, then it's his decision on, like you said, what is his ceiling? I think if he goes to like an Eastern Conference team, like, I don't know, like Charlotte or something like that, he could be their leading, one of their, their second leading scorer or something. Like, he can put up numbers.
Career highs last year in points, 13.5, boards 5.2. The big number, 3-point percentage, 41.4. He hadn't shot over 38% on a season. And what's astounding with that is it's not only a season high in 3-point percentage, but a season high in 3-point percentage where he took an extra 3 a game. So that was outstanding. Some other highlights from the season, obviously 34 points on Naz Reid towel nights. That was crazy. I mean, just how about showing up for the occasion? People have towels with your name and you go off for 34 points, a career high 34 points.
And even just him as a player, how about when Karl Anthony Towns goes down? We're on the stretch run of the playoffs. We're trying to hold on to seeding, and this guy steps in and puts up multiple 20-point games, almost re-energizes our offense into making more ball movement plays that we weren't doing earlier. That really kind of pushed us forward into the playoffs. I mean, this guy, he can do it all. And I mean, there's an argument to be had that our offense and our team plays better when he is starting.
Right. Almost like when we used to talk about Memphis with the Tyus Jones effect, like when you would talk about Ja Morant being out, and, Memphis almost had a better record with.
They did. I think they were like Jones. 35-4 or something like that when Tyus started that year. And it's like,
Which it's kind of in a vacuum, right? Because obviously you put skills on the table. Ja Morant is a better player than Tyus Jones, but it's just the consistency and the playmaking maybe a little bit that you get Tyus Jones. Now, interesting quote from the Slam article that he was talking about kind of his role this year. He told Slam, "We've had lineups this past year where I was the 3. We've had big lineups, so that's something I have been working on." So it kind of sounds like he's working on his game to try to be more elusive. He also said, "Time will tell, but I can probably transition to a 3 or 4 or 5 in this league." And I think part of that versatility where the Wolves have such a huge lineup, you can throw in Naz anywhere. Now, I'm not saying he can guard a small 3, but I mean, the versatility, positionless basketball is definitely the breed that Naz Reid is.
Well, I'll tell you what, that small 3 is not going to have a fun time guarding Naz either.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's something that he probably stepped up the most last year, other than his 3-point shooting, just pure percentage wise.
Yep.
His free throw percentage went up quite a bit too, if I remember. But his willingness to, when he caught the ball and he knew it was a mismatch, he would attack it instantly. He would put that guy right on his back and he would attack him in the post, right away. No hesitation. That sort of decisiveness is when you're a big team like the Timberwolves, puff their chest out and say we're a huge team. You have to play huge. And the way you play big is when your guys are mismatched, you take those guys down in the post and you get 2 points, or a foul. And Naz was great at that. So I don't think there's a reason why he won't be getting more minutes at the 3. I remember in the playoffs, I thought it was fairly successful. So let's do it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I looked up a video from the past that we did like 3 years ago. This was before Rudy Gobert was even in the equation. And the question that we were talking about is, can Naz and Karl Anthony Towns play together? And definitely they've proven so far the answer is yes, because they have been really good together, even defensively. Like, I think a big part of Naz, I mean, how many times did Naz come up with great defense on Jokic in the playoffs, or he got a block there, or a block on Jamal Murray in a big spot or something like that? Not to only name the Denver series, but he also played pretty well decently in the Dallas series. I mean, he had that one game in game 2 where he had, what was it? He shot 78% from the field in 3 and had 23 points. I mean, if you have your 6-man scoring 23 points, that's a pretty good that's a pretty good omen, particularly in the playoffs where the bench gets shorter.
And he brings energy.
Yep.
Like, not only is he productive, but like you feel it when he comes in. And he doesn't, he's a microwave guy. How many times did the first 3-pointer he shot? I bet it's a stat somewhere. I wonder what his percentage on first, like, 3-pointer off the bench.
Yeah, like a cold 3-pointer. Yeah.
I feel like he made 75% of his cold 3-pointers. And I mean, it just skyrockets us momentum, morale. The guy is special, and man, it's huge that we have him. And if any of these other guys we have on our team can fill in to add a little more spark to that second unit, we're going to be trouble. We're going to be tough to deal with.
Yeah, and it's interesting. He almost, and we were talking about positionless basketball. He almost plays basketball like a guard.
Yeah,
like his in and out dribble, how he attacks the basket. Now, it doesn't always work, but I feel like he's more free to take more risks than anyone else on the team, maybe other than Cat. But when Cat attacks the basket, he ends up falling down and yelling
right.
"Hey" or something like that. But just his ball handling.
We bring him off screens.
Yeah, off screens as well.
Yeah, we pull him that Iverson cut where he's like sprinting around the whole 3-point line, then he catches it and takes it right to the hoop. That's like a 2-guard. I mean, that's what you run that for fast 2 guards, not for power forward centers.
And that's what he was talking about, like coming from Jersey, just like guys from Jersey, they move a different type of way and they play a different type of way. And that's just what we see out of him and how elusive he is, how well he can attack the basket. He's got to be, I was thinking about best 6-man in Wolves history, and a couple came to mind. Wally Zerbiak was a 6-man for a little bit. Obviously, Jamal Crawford, a smaller sample size because he was only here for about a year or so. But he's got to be the best 6-man in Wolves history, right?
Yeah, I mean, that comes to mind. He's definitely the most talented, so I'll take that. He's and his, like you were talking about defensively, he has all the tools and he has all the effort. He's an effort player that way. Yeah, I mean, and not only that, he's a good story for the franchise. He lets us know, he lets the other people know that come in that might be a 2nd-round draft pick, that might be undrafted, that if you work hard and you do what you're told, you have a chance to cash in this for this franchise. That's something that's big for a franchise to have. And I'm glad that Naz is the guy that we can do that with.
Yeah, and you talked about just the story. It's almost like, for example, Governor Walz, and this isn't a political statement. You can say what you want about him, doesn't matter. But he had he made a declaration and he spelt out with all the letters Naz Reid. Like, it's just a thing that we say to each other, like 2 words, Naz Reid. And there's the honk if you love Naz Reid. And there's the Naz Reid beach towel, which I don't know if you saw this last year, but actually made it to WrestleMania. There was someone close to the front row with a Naz Reid beach towel. So it's just become something out of this world. And I think not only players who come out of not only players that come to the NBA, but just like kids. What a story that you can tell your kids who are into basketball. Like, this guy worked his way up. And now he's one of the biggest pariahs in Minnesota.
Yeah, no, I love him. And he's one of the reasons where we'll go as far as he can take us. Like we were talking all last year, we're going to need Anthony Edwards to play at an MVP level, like a top 5 in the MVP type level. We're going to need Karl Anthony Towns to be an all-star, to play like an all-star. We're going to need Rudy Gobert to be a defensive player of the year type player. And we're going to need Naz Reid to be the 6th man of the year for us to have a title shot. Like, all those things kind of have to happen. And Naz Reid did his part, I think everybody almost did their part. And there's a reason why we were so close. And there's no reason why that same thing can't happen, again. And the more time together playing with these guys, everything's is going to be smoother. People are going to know where the other guys are. It's just, it's going to be a great season for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking about this and prepping for this episode. I can't think of a guy that, in talking about kind of Naz Reid's handle, I can't think of a guy that plays exactly like Naz Reid. Like I can't think of anyone in the past or present, a big guy, 6'9", with the handles of Naz Reid, with the shooting ability of Naz Reid, because Cat may have the shooting ability of Naz Reid, but he doesn't have the handles of Naz Reid. Definitely
Maybe
not.
Julius Randle
Julius Randle, okay.
is kind of he would be sort of in that sort of realm. Maybe maybe Antoine Walker, maybe. He didn't quite have the handle, but he was a big guy that kind of had a little shake to him. Yeah, no, he's super unique. I mean, this guy's unique. And not only that, he's explosive. Like he's an explosive athlete. That's something he's added in these last couple of years, where a lot of those other two guys they're thicker and they've kind of got more shake to their game. But Naz Reid can also go over the top of you and thunder dunk it on you. Like he's got that nuclear button he can press that a lot of those other guys didn't have.
And he is the third undrafted player to win Sixth Man of the Year. The only other two are John Starks and Daryl Armstrong. The only other two undrafted players to win Sixth Man of the Year, and obviously the first Timberwolf to win Sixth Man of the Year. And he was actually pretty high recruited out of college.
Oh, yeah.
Not to go back to the college thing. He was ESPN's 12th rated recruit and number 21 on Rivals. So not top 10, not like
those are still elite crop. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When I saw that, because those were who I was looking at. I was looking at guys that I thought were going to be drafted maybe in the top 10. So let me look at the top 5 centers. Let me look at the top 5 power forwards, and I would watch video on each one, and he stood out. Like immediately, you're like, whoa, this guy moves different. Like he has it. Will it get put together? Who knows? But it's in there, and you can tell when you watch a lot of guys, it's just not in there. But he has the ability to be it. Like he could score, he could be anything. He has a talent to be anything he wants in the league.
Absolutely. So I just want to do this quote, or say this quote, that at the end of the Slam article, they basically ask him, what's the message that you want to give the fans, speaking right to the fans. And he said, I think everybody knows how much work and dedication I put and the aspiration that I put into getting where I am now. It's not going to stop now. This is only the beginning.
I believe it. He seems like the kind of guy that is humble enough to understand. Like he got humbled by college. Again, he was a top 10 recruit, top 15 recruit. And then nobody wanted him. Like he went to LSU thinking he was going to be the king, and nobody cared. Followed his idol, Shaquille O'Neal, out of New Jersey to LSU. Thought he was going to be a legend. And everybody was like, who cares? Who are you? So that's sort of humbling, and getting back into just getting in shape and putting in the hard work and like the actual business of trying to be a professional athlete, I think unlocked a skill set in him that is who he is now, and sometimes those guys are way better than the guys that come out with all the polish to begin with, because they haven't had that. They haven't been kicked down and fought their way back up. So, that's the kind of heart you want on your basketball team, to show other guys that, there's going to be times when you're going to have to do that.
Yeah. Look at a guy like, and obviously there are other factors, but look at a highly drafted guy like Kwame Brown, a big guy, or like Anthony Bennett or something like that. Right. They obviously had in the workouts all the skill in the world. They didn't have the heart. They didn't have the want to be better. Now, obviously the Kwame Brown, there's been stuff that's come out. Maybe a little bit of it was Jordan screwing him up, but I mean, just the want to. It's almost, I almost think potentially maybe he's had a better career. I'm not talking about Kwame Brown, but talking about Naz Reid. I almost think he's had a better career because of being undrafted, like having to earn everything in his path, having to earn a contract, having to earn his spot on the team. And
I bet he'll top out higher. I bet he will end up at a higher place than if he wouldn't have been, for sure.
I agree. And I think he came in. So his first year, can you believe he's been here 5 years already?
Yeah.
That's crazy. And I think he came in at the perfect time for an ascending team. He came in 1 year before Anthony Edwards. So obviously not that great a team.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, we had the COVID year, so not great there either. So he's been able. I think a part of the Naz pariah thing is as the team has grown into a better team with better aspirations, getting Rudy Gobert, getting rid of D'Lo, getting Mike Conley, the ascension of Ant, he's grown with them. He's grown at the exact same
Jaden
rate.
McDaniels, same
Yeah,
kind of
Jaden
guy.
McDaniels. When the team was bad, he was probably not at his best. He had to learn. But now he's peaking at the right time, which to win championships and, as we saw, to make Western Conference Finals, that's what you need to do.
It's going to be beautiful. I can't wait to watch it continue. There's no real reason why it seems like there's a plateau here. So, yeah, I mean, he's only going to be better next year. So I can't wait to see it.
If you had to give one thing, I obviously Naz isn't watching this. I hope he's not watching this. But one thing that he can get better at, one thing. What do you think?
He still gets silly fouls. He still gets he gets a little handsy on defense and gets thinking he's going to get calls that maybe superstars get on him. So I think taking himself out of games is something, but truthfully on the court, I mean, just keep tightening up what you're doing. Just minutes on the court is all he needs. Like, and I've been saying that for years. Like, all he needs is time. Give him 25 minutes a game. That's all I want, and it will happen. So yeah, I think just stay on the court. Don't let your own mistakes take you off the court.
Yeah. And the only thing I would say is maybe limit the turnovers a little bit. But then again, I want Naz to be aggressive. I don't want him. When he's in the game, I want him to attack the basket and do what he needs to do to establish himself, because maybe it won't work the first time, but I'll bet you the dream shake will work the third or fourth or fifth time. His moves like Olajuwon, and I know it's probably faux pas to say like Olajuwon, but it almost looks like Akeem Olajuwon out there. Like you see the clips from the 90s or the 80s, it looks like Akeem Olajuwon when he's doing that dream shake. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and he's probably top 10 in the league in actual low post moves, like ability, because there's just not much of it happening. So that's what's wild is, he gets these small guys down there and he's got 3 or 4 moves in his bag, and that's 2 or 3 more than most guys. So they're in trouble.
Well, we've talked about Naz Reid for 30 minutes. I say we put an exclamation point on it there. Chris, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, anytime you want Naz talk, holler back.
Absolutely. This is the Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. Give us a like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, let us know what player you want us to talk about next, because we would love to do another episode, whether it's Anthony Edwards, whether it's our controversial takes on Jaden McDaniels. Let us know who you want us to talk about. Let us know in the Apple comments. And as always, go Wolves.